Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 289 for the 4th of May, 2014. Now there's that music, yes, may the 4th be with you, that sort of thing. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, no more Star Wars. Instead, we have a grain of salt with Eran Segev. This week, Eran is chatting to Susan Gerbic and Mark Edward from the Guerrilla Skepticism outreach sort of enterprise. And Susan and Mark were guests at the QED convention in Manchester. Following that, it's a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia at www.riaus.org.au. And then for a change of pace, a few little things that the skeptics got up to in the past week. A group of us went out to see a talk by Dr Karl. Dr Karl, very famous in Australia. He's sort of Australia's answer to Bill Nye, or Bill Nye is sort of Australia's answer to Dr Karl. I'm not sure how it works. We went along to see a public talk by Dr. Karl and had a bit of a chat amongst ourselves, waiting for autographs and photographs. And after that, something very different again indeed. We all go to Skeptics in the pub and a group of us are reviewing videos from the archive. Some videos going back over 20 years, skeptical-themed videos. And we're going to play an excerpt from a talk show in Australia in the early 90s called Couchman, where a whole group of astrologers and a whole group of skeptics got together for a chat. A blast from the past, a look inside the thinking of some astrologers coming up later in the show. Then to round off the show, it's Evidence Please with Jo Alabaster. Jo's going to read the public statement warning about the Australian Vaccination-skeptics Network Inc. from the Healthcare Complaints Commission. Wow, they really go to town on the anti-vax mob. Jo's going to read the full statement and why they came out with this public warning to give you an insight into their thinking. Now, those of you in Melbourne, you might want to run along to the Morty Alex Skeptics, or the Morty Meetup, the Morty Skeptics, they call it, Morty Skeptics in the pub. I was down there earlier in the year, I think it was. Or was it late last year? Sometime in the past, I went down to speak there at the Morty Skeptics. What a great time I had. So now it's your chance to visit if you haven't done so before. Tuesday the 6th of May, so this coming Tuesday at 7:30, you can hear Amanda Duval from Canberra talking about skeptical activism. Now, if you just Google Morty Alec Sporting Club Skeptics or Morty Skeptics, you should be able to find details about that talk. But I'll certainly put a link on the show notes at skepticzone.tv on this week's episode. But now it's time for me to run downstairs, open up the fridge, get some of that Greek yogurt out, that plain Greek yogurt, put it into a bowl, then pour in a little bit of maple syrup, then mix that up. Not bad. Not a bad snack. Not bad. While I'm doing that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
I'm here with Susan Gerbic. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
It was so lovely to meet you finally.
Oh, I know. That was really great.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've spent actually quite a bit of time. You've spent quite a bit of time on stage together. Some of it was with me. Most of it was without me. Can you tell me what you talked about and what you participated in?
Oh, my gosh. The first panel you and I were on was how to talk to believers, how to get the message across to people who are the believers, and that was phenomenal. Great advice. And we had Samantha as well as Marshall and you and I.
Yes.
And then...
It's going to be noisy here. We're in the corridor.
Sorry, we're in a corridor after QED. And the next lecture I gave was a lecture on guerrilla skepticism on Wikipedia, which I was on the main stage for. And We've been having a blast, just an absolute blast. A lot of my teammates are here.
Yeah, no, I must, because we've just basically stepped out of the last talk and the closing of QED, I think you would both agree that this was a fantastic conference.
Absolutely fantastic. Just tiny little tweaks I would make, but other than that, this is extremely well run and a blast, just an absolute blast.
Okay, now I want to talk to you a little bit about you first, and then we'll talk about the things that you do. So, you've spoken to Richard not a very long time ago, actually, only about 3 or 4 months ago. I think you were undergoing chemotherapy at the moment. At the time,
I just finished my chemo.
And how are you feeling?
I'm great. I finished my radiation, and I have a little problems with my fingernails not growing back quite yet. Once they're grown back, my hair is starting to grow back. Everybody seems to like my hairstyle as it is right now, so I'm kind of contemplating on not cutting it very much. But my health is great. I'm as active as I always was, and it's very difficult to keep up with me.
Excellent. Very good. So, I'm glad to hear about that. I want to ask you a few things about the things that you do.
Sure.
And I think I don't want to rehash the whole. I think people know what guerrilla skepticism on the web is, and all that. It's quite well known by now. But over the last few days, when I was watching the tweets, the Twitter sphere, I've noticed some criticisms, and I wanted to ask you about those things.
Oh, great! Because I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything.
So one of the things that I've heard was that you refer a lot to my team.
I do.
And several people commented on the fact that it should be a collaborative effort, and it's not your team, or is it your team, or is it a group of people working together? So what do you say to that?
Isn't that the same? In my view, a team of people is a collaboration.
No, I think it's more about the fact that you say my team rather than our team or we or something.
Okay, I guess. I go back and forth on my blog, our blog, my team, and I don't know. I really haven't thought about it much because it is my baby. I mean, I give 40 hours, 50 hours a week to this project. So it is my whims, things I think of, and then they take things and go with it. And it's been fabulous having it. But yeah, I am the leader of this group. But I do have some extremely important people in the group that I have all my passwords, my keys, everything to everything. They know what's going on so that they're able to, if something were to happen to me, they could easily take over and it would go.
Okay, and another comment that I saw was related to the overall attitude, to the question of, which comes to the discussion that we had yesterday when we were both on a panel about how do you approach believers. And, there's that whole range from smack them on the head to softly and very accommodating. And where do you stand on that, and what would you prefer to see?
When we're talking about people in general, just Mr. and Mrs. Public or whatever, I think that we just need to get the facts out there. I think that's the important thing, and just the facts, and just constantly restate your argument of whatever it is. If they're making a claim for something, then you would say again and again, so your claim is, explain to me more detail. Don't get off into a tangent. Just let's keep to the facts. What is it that you're actually trying to claim? So then, if you're talking to a friend or a family member or somebody who you feel might be harming themselves with something, pick your battles and keep an open mind and try to approach them in a roundabout way. Maybe not directly saying that they should be believing what you believe because you say so, but let's look at the evidence and still keep it in a gentle way. So other than like going to a psychic's, to these grief vampire shows or something like that, again, you shouldn't be talking to the believers so much. You should be trying, other than maybe letting them know that there is something going on. But you really should be going after the psychic or the con person or the medical quack or whatever. Those are the people you need to get to, because when you let them know we're here, we're invisible, you don't know who we are, then it really kind of makes it so that it's more difficult for them to continue being a performer.
Okay. So that these are situations. Mark gave a talk about your partner, Mark Edward, also gave a talk about that and about how to approach these situations. Gave some examples with videos from a demonstration against Sylvia Brown.
Right.
So these are situations where people actually, I think they'll be dreaming about this door. This example that Mark gave was something where you actually go to. You're demonstrating.
Yes.
You're doing it's all the effects of a demonstration. The demonstration is sometimes effective when it's just stand there with signs, but very often being rowdy and noisy and maybe a little bit obnoxious.
Yeah, and it
helps
depends,
in that sense.
It depends on the situation.
I wanted to ask you though: are there situations when it's a good idea to be rowdy and obnoxious on the web when it's not in those situations when you're actually standing there in front of a Sylvia Browne talk?
That just kind of depends, I guess. If we're talking about a cancer, a quack or something like that, well, I think that when you're talking about the people who are the family members who are actually having problems with their believers and they're desperate and so on, we should never engage with them. No engagement whatsoever with the families.
Yeah.
We should only be talking to the staff and to those people. So I guess it just depends. Online, we really don't engage much. With the Wikipedia project, all we're doing is just...
Yeah. Are there things that you do apart from Wikipedia?
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Tell me.
Yes, okay. We have the Skeptic Action Project, which is something that everybody can follow on Twitter, Facebook, or Google+, and it's one suggestion a day. We send out usually a paranormal URL, and a person will receive that URL, and we ask them to rate it using Web of Trust, using Rebutter. And what you're doing is you're going to the website, looking it over, reading it for yourself, and deciding, is this a trustworthy site? Is this a site that I think children should be going to? And you rate it. And if you feel like leaving a rebutter, then what you would do is you would find a counter argument for the page that of your URL we gave you. And independently, one person at a time, this is making no difference. But we have over almost 700 people who are on this project. And when you have a group of 700 people all giving their opinion about a homeopathy page or whatever, then that's a very strong statement. Anybody else in the world who tries to access that one single URL, they're going to get, a face full of, hey, this is not a trustworthy site. This is not a place that you should be, here's all these rebutters to this page. This is not safe. This is a very dangerous page. Beware, beware, beware. Don't even bother going here. And so we do that project. I'm also involved in the Independent Investigations Group, which has $100,000 for a paranormal, any claim of paranormal. So I'm very comfortable talking to people
Not
who
for
have...
the claim, for the evidence.
Oh, yeah.
For
the
a proven claim.
Thank you. Absolutely right. So we have a $100,000 challenge for that. And then I also run Monterey County Skeptics, which is a social group in Salinas, California, Monterey County area, which is very near San Francisco. And I also have been involved a lot with the Brzezinski patient clinic involvement. I'm all over the place.
Okay, so now so far I've calculated about 172 hours. There's 168 hours in a week. So how do you get all of this done?
Oh,
and when do you eat?
Oh, I don't eat a lot. I've lost a lot of my appetite, so I don't have a lot of. They don't tell you whenever you have cancer treatment, you lose a lot of your taste buds. I rarely watch movies. I hardly ever get to read anything that's non-skeptic related, and I work and garden, and I'm not a Martha Stewart type person, so I get a lot done.
Yeah, okay, so we've just been talking about the number of hours that Susan puts into the skeptical work, and we've just been joined by Mark Edward, who is Susan's partner. Maybe you could move closer to us so that I can more easily record. And Mark has his own skeptical credentials, and you gave a talk today about how to demonstrate against psychics.
Yes.
So with a very very loud video about how you demonstrated against Sylvia Browne basically at a moment's notice.
Seemed to work too. She's gone.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't take responsibility for that. The police might do something. You could take responsibility.
Maybe the stress of just having to deal with psychics.
Who knows?
Skeptics was enough to do it to her.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the talk that you gave?
Well, my whole thing is do something. Stop listening to people talk about it. I mean, of course, it's always new. There are new people who come into the skeptical movement who've never been to a lecture about skepticism, and I think that's necessary. But for me, and I think Susan as well, at a certain point we had to find something to do because we wanted to be more active than passive in terms of taking it all in. So my whole thing is get out there and do something, even if, like in Susan's case, she works on Wikipedia. She stays home in her pajamas and has her cats around her, and nobody bothers her. She gets a lot of work that goes all over the world out. For me, I'm a street performer as a magician, so I like to get out in the street and be face-to-face with people. And I don't have a problem with that, and it's very exciting. So it's a spectrum, you know. Yeah. Find your niche on the spectrum of anger.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to ask you about that spectrum of anger.
Yes.
Because I think it's a very important question. Marsh, for example, has a podcast called Be Reasonable, in which he and Hayley Stevens from the Greater Manchester Skeptics talk to... they're not just believers, they're peddlers of all kinds of wacky stuff. Right. And some of them can be quite infuriating, in some cases simply because the arguments they make, the stories that they tell are quite silly. Right. In other cases because they're actually quite damaging, like some guy who pickets abortion clinics, stuff like that. But in all cases, the way Marsh and Hayley choose to do it is they try to understand what the person is thinking. Right. They do not attack, they do not give answers. They do ask challenging questions, but they ask them very politely and basically try to, at most, give the person enough rope to hang themselves, but they do not they do not serve as the executioner. Right. So this is obviously not your approach, but I'm just wondering what you think about that approach.
I'm tired of that. I already know. I already know that we need to understand it, and I think I'm at the point where I just don't have any I don't have time.
So maybe I should clarify. I'm not asking your attitude as per. I mean, we all have. It's like the atheism scale. About like those who feel a real. I'm an atheist, but I don't feel a need to
reframe the question.
Yeah, so I don't feel a need to talk too much about atheism. Other people feel that they really need to push atheism. So I'm not asking you for your attitude for yourself. I'm asking you for attitude in terms of what the skeptical movement should be doing.
Well, there's room for everybody. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like I would leave their approach out. I think it's just as important. Okay. So it's part of the movement. It's a big, I hate to use the term tent, but we're all in the same tent together, and we have to work together. It's just, for me, I just can't sit still and listen to like you said, the silliness. Yeah.
So I want to ask both of you actually a question, and that's you've mentioned the word tent. I have to ask that question. You're both from active in the U.S. skeptical scene, which has seen the tent being like, there's clearly a fight happening. I'm outside the tent. I can't really see through the walls of the tent, but there's clearly something bad happening inside that tent. Yeah, so I'm just wondering whether what you feel about this. I don't want to go into any of the details. It's more about how the relationships are going, and about whether the tent should or should not be moved to accommodate.
Shall I talk first?
I'd love to ask the question better. Okay. Let me see. I'm waiting to see where he goes with this.
Okay.
No, I just want to know your opinion. It's an open question about your opinion about what's happening in the U.S. skeptical scene at the moment.
But there's so much. Pick one. Are we talking about?
I'm talking about the non-skeptical stuff.
Oh, you're talking about all the drama.
All the drama, yeah.
Oh, that. Okay, so not necessarily. Okay, so there's so much going on. Oh, my Lord. I think that, I know for a certain fact that it is really distracting. It is so distracting on Facebook and Twitter and so on. People get distracted about what people are saying, and they're not paying attention to what the real picture is. Like, for example, when those women were released in Ohio, they escaped from the house. And Sylvia Browne had recently, last few years, had talked to one of the mothers and said that your child would never be found. She's dead. Amanda Berry. Yeah. So the absolute world was so furious with Sylvia Browne. The numbers people were they took down her Twitter account and her Facebook account because the world was so angry at Sylvia Browne. They did not understand all the background that we in the skeptic community have on Sylvia Browne. They were just reacting how horrible this was. But what happened, and I have facts, I show the spikes of Sylvia Browne's Wikipedia pages went thousands of times up. The spike of hits was incredible. The amount of people who actually were going and visiting her Wikipedia page meant that the world was looking at Sylvia Browne for the very first time. Myself and several other people at CFI and other places were screaming, let's do something. Here's some concrete things that we can do to finalize it, to put the nail in the coffin for this woman, to make it so she's never able to do another casino show, sell another blender, any of that. Here's what we're going to do. And I'm posting, and everybody else is posting. And the world in the skeptic community, the people who have all the knowledge and all the skills, said nothing because they were busy watching a drama between PZ Myers and somebody else who were going back and forth about the tent and the skeptic tent and the atheist tent, and they were going back and forth, and they're like, did you see what he said? Did you see what he said? Oh my gosh, I'm on so-and-so's side. Oh no, I think he meant this by that. And it was just like, hello people, we are here for a totally different reason. I could give a flying about,
we can beep it, it's okay.
Yeah, about what's going on with those people over there who their opinion to me is not important. What is important is Sylvia Browne is vulnerable. At this moment, we have at most maybe 2 days. Let's take advantage of this moment.
Now, can I?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with Susan, and here's the bottom line on that. I think the people who are the real doers are going to keep doing what they do, regardless of the drama. And if the tent folds, that's somebody else's problem. Because if you don't involve yourself in it and you keep doing what you know the real work is, and by now we all know what the real work is. It has nothing to do with the politics and all these other things. So to me it just shines a light on the inefficiency of the movement as it is. It's time to move on. And if that's the way it has to change, so be it. And the people who want to keep up with that sort of waste of time, to me it's a waste of time. The people who are really working will keep working. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I know for a fact that there are people who are out there working very hard to get rational and critical thinking going. I really don't think somebody like James Randi cares a bit about it. He's home writing every day. He's available for television and radio. He's out there. He's in my opinion, I think part of the problem is there's not going to be another Randy. And without a figurehead, without somebody who has the showmanship and the ability to guide a movement in the direction that he has for these many years, it's going to fall apart anyway, because these people are not professionals.
Okay, one more thing. The tent thing, the drama thing, just irritates the heck out of me. One of the main problems I'm finding with it is that I know all sorts of people in the skeptic community, and they know me. I'm so easy to get a hold of. If somebody has a problem with something I'm doing, this, what you said about this, my team thing, this is the first I've heard of it, is what you said. So I'm dying to go see what it is that somebody's writing about me in this discussion. If there is somebody out there, I don't even have a clue who it could possibly be, but if there is a discussion going on, then I would appreciate it as a professional human being that, professional human being. As a professional, I would think that they'd have the respect to come to me and say, Susan, I have a question about how you use the word team all the time and how you say I and my project and so on. Can you explain a little bit more in detail what you mean by that? But what I'm finding is, it's like talking to Rupert Sheldrake and Deepak Chopra. They're blogging about it, and just having a discussion somewhere as if I don't exist, as if I'm like somebody, like you would talk about Richard Dawkins, but you wouldn't actually go and talk to Richard Dawkins. You just talk about Richard Dawkins. It's this mentality of let's talk about people, but let's not involve them in the conversation. So I'm kind of taken aback. And now that I think about it, since Mark was talking, I was able to think a little bit more about what you meant about the team. Anybody who is talking about us not being a team, or that I don't feel like that I have this team thing, is totally clueless to what's actually going on. I have people from all over the world that are going and lecturing. I have a man named Michael who's going to be lecturing at a German conference in May. And I have people who've spoken at skeptic camps in Australia and other places. Totally, they're taking it upon themselves. We talk about what maybe they'll say. They do their own PowerPoints. We might look them over. It's my team, but it's also our team. I don't know how I say it. Maybe it's like the Trinity, except instead of being the Trinity,
don't go
it's two.
there. Don't go there, Susan.
It's both and it's one, so it's kind of like that. But so if there's anybody, I don't know what's going on yet. I'm not sure what I'm saying here yet, but anybody who's talking about us in that way, as it sounds, does not understand the dynamics of the group or the project. And I would appreciate it if they would actually speak to me and get a real perspective of what's going on instead of talking about me without mentioning us. Okay, well, anyway, so I'm totally clueless. I get support from everyone, everywhere. I have really had almost no criticism except from the paranormal world.
Yeah. So. Susan and Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. I loved meeting you.
Now go out there and do something.
Do something.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Yes, it's Bunga Bunga.
People want me to ingest hookworms. I assume that's because they think it will somehow cure me of multiple sclerosis, but I like my multiple sclerosis. I worked hard to get it.
The hookworms, when they're long enough, won't they eat through the wall of the intestine and possibly go into an organ?
I think the idea is that eventually at least you know what's killing you.
Maynard and Tim Ferguson in a new-ish podcast, Bunga Bunga, with special guest... Well, with alleged special guest, Richard Saunders. You can find this and 80 other free shows of stuff at maynard.com.au. I said, AU, bunga bunga.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a bit of a sci-fi fan. And the question that literally no one has ever asked me is, could cyborgs exist? Cyborgs are a staple of sci-fi, appearing in everything from Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, just about any show you can think of. We think of cyborgs as a mixture of biological and computational technology, such as a human body supplemented with electronics. That all sounds a bit fanciful, but is it? Could humans one day start incorporating robotic or computer technology into our bodies? Believe it or not, it's already started. The University of Washington has already carried out experiments where a person's conscious thought was carried over the internet and induced movement in a second person sitting elsewhere. There is also research looking into the interaction between the human nervous system and machines, potentially allowing human thought to control machinery. But why would we want to? The drawback of flesh and blood as bodies is that they will eventually fail, while a cyborg body and mind could effectively give us immortality. But more than that, it may give hope to those who do have serious health problems which restricts their mobility, communication, or other day-to-day tasks. And now, 4 fast facts about cybernetics. Wearable electronics such as Google Glass could be seen as the first step towards cybernetics, giving humans higher functionality through technology. Artist Neil Harbison has implanted technology into his head to correct colour blindness, and he now even considers himself to be a cyborg. In 2009, European doctors successfully integrated a robotic hand into the nervous system of an amputee, allowing him to control the hand as if it were his own. And a small mobile robot has also been built and successfully controlled using rat neurons. That's it for this week in science. If you want to find out more about cybernetics, one day you won't even need the internet to look it up. But until then, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Ben Lewis and we'll catch you next week.
Раз, два, три, четыре.
Друзья, меня зовут Кирилл Алферов, и я основатель общества скептиков. Мы зовем вас на наши встречи, которые проходят каждые 2 недели в Москве, и также приглашаем послушать наш подкаст, который выходит каждую неделю. Подкаст называется «Скептик», а сайт, на котором вы можете узнать о нашей деятельности, это www.skepticsociety.ru. Hey everybody, my name is Kirill, and I'm the founder of Skeptic Society Russia. Come visit us in Moscow in our bi-weekly meetings, and also listen to our weekly podcast, which is called Skeptic. And the site where you can find all of that is skepticsociety.ru.
I'm at the University of Sydney, and we've just been to a talk by Dr. Karl, Game of Knowns. I'm with Jo Alabaster. Hello, Jo.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm pretty well. I really enjoyed Dr. Karl's talk tonight. Did you enjoy it? Well, say yes. Please say yes.
Yes, I did.
Well, I mean, honestly, you did. I'm not coaxing you to say that. No, it was really good. It was a packed house here tonight. Dr. Karl gave his talk, Game of Knowns. And typical Dr. Karl talk, you never know where... It was like a train of consciousness, wasn't it? A stream of consciousness.
It was indeed. It jumped all over the place, but was somehow didn't feel uncohesive, discohesive, which is it?
It was tied together. He'd talk about some amoeba, which would lead to junk food, which would lead to heart disease, which would lead to this, and it was a roller coaster.
And lots of photos of Kardashians for some unknown reason.
Yes, I noticed that too. No, it all made sense in the end. And along for the evening too is Peter Bowditch from Australian Skeptics. Hello.
Hello.
And Ian Bryce from Australian Skeptics.
Hello, Richard. Glad you got a mention during the talk.
Yes, Karl gave me a shout out to my amusement and embarrassment up at the back of the audience. So what's happening in the world of skepticism, Ian? Any interesting things on the horizon there? Anything that you've been looking at?
Oh, yes, I've been reading a book on string theory.
String theory? What do you think about string theory?
Not much more than when I started, unfortunately.
Would you like me to explain it to you?
I would. It's triggered by the idea that the series 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5, etc., sums up to -1/12, which has been doing the rounds on the internet.
I've seen that, yeah.
Please don't start this argument again.
And our past leader, Eran Segev, might have noticed on Q Skeptics.
Well, I saw that in passing, but I really didn't get into it, you know.
I've been going into it in great detail for the last week.
Yeah, I saw people arguing about it, and it seemed that they separated into two camps, one of whom said, well, it's obvious, and the other half said, it's ridiculous. And in the middle, there was nobody.
That's right.
Maybe it's obvious that it's ridiculous. I can't say that. I really don't know enough about it. But, Peter, it's been an interesting time recently. And, you know, ever since the Skeptic Zone started, we've been harping on about the anti-vaxxers. Oh. And it's like, they're compared to where they were years ago, they're a shadow of their former self, but they're still hanging in there.
I think we've got them essentially beaten. They will never go away.
No, they'll never go away.
They had anti-vaccination people from the time Jenner first announced the cowpox vaccine. So it will never go away in the same way that we'll never wipe out people that want to use all sorts of alternative medicines and things like that. But I think what we've done, and we've managed to do this over the last 5 years, is we've taken away the authority they used to have.
Yeah.
That is, they no longer get invited on as experts.
Yeah.
And TV shows and the media are essentially ridiculing now. Whereas 5 years ago, if there was a story about vaccination, there would be an anti-vaccination person there. I think we've still got a long way to go, but I think we've at least got rid of that.
Yeah, and they've got so many problems they have to deal with internally now with the government, with the law, and it's good to see it.
The thing is, they're like mushrooms after the rain, though. It's all underground. You just don't know it there until they just pop up. If the Australian Vaccination Network disappears, there are at least two organisations which will drop up in this place.
Yes, I expect you're right.
Hopefully they won't have the credibility that they once had. Since the idea of balance, that you must have two sides to an argument, even if one's wrong. Hopefully you've overthrown that.
Yeah, well, I've actually been quoted all over the place in my statement as saying that a photograph has two sides, but one of them is blank.
That's a great saying. Yeah, there's two sides. Oh, no, as a photograph has a blank side. As we speak here, we're just looking over here. Look at Dr. Karl mugging away with these fans, and lots of selfies, lots of photographs. Probably he's lapping it up.
Well, we've got to line up for a selfie with him shortly.
I think we do. And I'm looking forward, of course, to seeing Dr. Karl at the amazing meeting later on in the year as the audience dissipates a little bit. We're still in the queue. We're actually in the queue to meet the man himself.
We're in the queue, yes, that's right.
Thanks, everybody.
Take it on my side. The whole Saturday night people.
I'm here at Skeptics in the pub. It's Lauren Cochrane, the president of Canberra Skeptics. Come up to Sydney. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. It's great to see you.
Yes, likewise.
And our listeners will know your voice, of course, because you do the odd read.
Yes, I do.
And more to come, I hope.
All you need to do is ask me back.
Oh, she's so sweet. Ratbag, hello.
Hello.
We're here at Skeptics in the pub, and we're having a great time at the moment before the crowds come in. Josh, hello over there. We're reviewing my extensive archive of skeptical bits and pieces and videos, and we just found one with you on it, Peter. Let's have a listen in.
Those daily horoscopes, and why are they all so different? Sophie Hull reports.
Sometimes it gives you a little bit of security to think that in the future you might have something to look forward to.
So it's not...
I quite often have something to look forward to in the future, because it's very hard to look forward to something in the past.
It is, but this is 4 or 5 years back.
So much, but it's giving you some kind of guide. And there's no scientific evidence when people actually go in and test it to find that it really does work.
The skeptic.
Do you bunker?
A ram, a crab, a scorpion, or a fish.
Now, this is... that was Today Tonight some years ago. You were on talking about astrology, but man, I've got so many things on here I've been collecting over the years. Look, Couchman from 1992. Do you remember the Couchman show?
Is he still? He's not even alive anymore, is he?
I was 5 in 1992.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I've no doubt you've all got a very clear idea of what sort of person I am. Some of you actually told me. But according to the astrologers, I am ambitious, conservative, industrious, and very well organised.
So this is all these years ago, but if we skip through it, we find some very well-known skeptics from the Australian point of view.
It has.
It has not, Barry. Show me the scientific test.
Right. Well, I tell you what.
Also,
Professor Isaac, who did attempt some serious studies, said the trouble with this is, for any serious researcher, is you get shouted down by both sides. You get shouted down for the astrologers for daring to doubt, and you get shouted down by the others for daring to take it seriously. But now look, just to be quite specific.
Anyway, it just sort of bogs down into argument. There's a funny bit. She's dead now, Athena Starwoman. Remember her?
Oh, yes. I remember
Athena, yeah.
Yeah, because there's one very basic question that I'd really like to hear you discuss, and that is, why should the position of the planets have any influence on how we turn out to be, on our personalities, on our characters, even the choice of occupation that we might make, what might happen in our lives? Why should that be? Can anyone explain that for me in 10 seconds? Yes, up the back.
The answer to that's very simple, Peter. The forces that govern the universe are quite well known, and they have been for about half a century, and the forces do not account for any of those interactions. The planets do not affect our personalities and the events that happen to us in that way.
That's an opinion.
Ray, can you explain for us simply how the position of the planets at the time of our birth might in any way affect what sort of people we are?
Well, Peter, I think that, first of all, the purpose of astrology is not to foretell the future. No one.
Precisely what you claim to do.
No, it is not what we claim to do. It's what you people keep claiming we do. We don't.
Just listen to an astrologer for 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Just explain for us why the position of the planet should in any way influence our personalities.
The position of the planets, when we're talking about the solar system, the most important thing in the solar system is the sun. You switch off that sun, you've got a heap of rocks. Having said that, there are 4 major seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring. A plant that will grow in the spring will not grow in the summer. I won't bore you. It goes on. There are... Well, we're all intelligent.
No, I think it is accepted by certainly people who grow things that plants are influenced by the sun and the moon and the stars.
Take it a little further. We are part of all we have met. Arthur Bowman will tell you that every time in the universe is putting its stamp impeccably and forever on every part of that universe that started at that moment, including people. A winter child is like a winter flower. A summer child is like a summer flower. We are different. I take a step. I'm different to the person who is one step behind me and different again to the person on either side of me. The thing that makes astrology work best is free will. Free will. Because you can have 50,000 people born at the same instant, under the same planetary influences, and they, exercising their God-given free will make 50,000 individual different decisions, and each one of them can be right for you.
Yes, but hold on a minute. Does that mean that all those people who were born at the same minute that I was are also all those things that I am? You know, on the bad days, malicious, pessimistic and selfish and...
Yes, but they've got the free will.
Biological twin, like a person born in the same hospital around about the same time as you would have a similar experience or life pattern.
But does that mean, by that definition that Ray's just given us, we should be almost identical personalities?
No, not necessarily, because we're taking into account the genetic processes that arrive from the 2 family lines that at conception then meet, and that individual is obviously going to display a lot of those genetic processes. And it is the environmental influences acting on those genetic processes which is going to make that person what they are.
I'd like to... of what they're saying is cop-outs from what they're claiming. I mean, they're giving you all the... Hey, hang on a bit. Can't the skeptics have a say? Aren't we allowed?
No,
everything they started out... They started out...
Free will, free will!
Yes, well, isn't that denying the whole basis of your load of rubbish you talk about?
Okay, wait a minute. Go ahead, Barry.
It's denying all these influences.
No, it's not.
Make your point.
Says I will use it this way. Look, I can use this chair like that, or I can sit on it. Look, I can fall over.
Take it easy, Ray. Take it easy.
You can do whatever you like. Look, free will.
Well, I'm all in favour of it.
So what was your point, Barry? What were you going to say?
The point is, they make a statement about this influence they have, and then for the rest of the 5 minutes, they've been giving you the outs from it, so that when it doesn't work for you, well, it might be a genetic influence, or it might be a free will, or it might be anything else. I mean,
it is free will.
Well, I'm agreeing with you about free will. Why do you have to then overlay your free will with this absolute tripe?
It's not.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I'm going to break this up. I'm going to break this up here. Hold on.
Anyhow, that's sort of the fun and games we get up to, waiting for people to come Skeptics in the Pub, reviewing skeptical videos from the past 20 years.
This is Jay Novella from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast. Did you know that there are thousands of skeptical reports, interviews, and investigations going back to 1981, free to download? Just visit www.skeptics.com.au. Click the publications link and enjoy almost every back issue of The Skeptic, the journal from Australian Skeptics. You can also subscribe online and get the latest digital or hard copy of this, the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. That's www.skeptics.com.au or just Google Australian Skeptics.
What we want is some more evidence, please. Here's Jo Alabaster.
Hello, this is Jo Alabaster. From the Healthcare Complaints Commission, 30th of April 2014. The New South Wales Healthcare Complaints Commission has completed an investigation into the Australian Vaccination-skeptics Network Inc, AVN, formerly known as Australian Vaccination Network Inc, and under Section 94A1 of the Healthcare Complaints Act, has decided to make the following public statement and warning. AVN was established in 1994 in New South Wales by a group of people concerned about the lack of scientifically based information cautioning against vaccination. AVN states on its website that the government and the medical community in general, quote, exaggerate the safety and benefit profiles of vaccinations whilst downplaying their risks, end quote. AVN states it was formed with the purpose of providing medically referenced information on vaccine safety and effectiveness, lobbying to ensure that vaccinations are never made compulsory for Australian children, supporting those who have chosen not to vaccinate or to vaccinate selectively. AVN disseminates information to the public via a variety of mediums. These include its website, www.avn.org.au, the magazine entitled Living Wisdom, which ceased publication in January 2013, its Facebook page, Twitter account and YouTube. Meryl Dorey, the former president, has also held a number of radio interviews. The Commission investigated whether information published and disseminated by the AVN may be misleading or inaccurate. The investigation focused on information provided on AVN's website and some information disseminated on AVN's Facebook page. The investigation found that AVN provides information on vaccination that is misleading to the average reader because it is either incorrect, inaccurately represented, or because it has been taken out of context. Specifically, AVN makes specific assertions about the efficacy of the Gardasil vaccine used to prevent cervical cancer caused by the human papillomavirus, HPV. It states that the connection between HPV and cervical cancer is tenuous at best and incomprehensive at worst. The vaccine contains only 4 of the 100 strains of HPV, and therefore its use is a, quote, shot in the dark, end quote. It is an experimental vaccine with no proven record of safety or effectiveness. AVN does not qualify that. Gardasil contains the 4 strains of HPV that have the greatest potential to cause cancer. The link between HPV and cervical cancer has been established beyond reasonable doubt. Significant research went into assessing the probable safety and efficacy of Gardasil before it was ever used in humans. Since its use, extensive worldwide data on its safety and efficacy has been collected supporting its safety. AVN asserts that the pertussis vaccine, used to prevent whooping cough, cannot protect against a new strain of pertussis, and that 84% of cases in the community are caused by this new strain. Further, AVN claims that the administration of the new acellular vaccine sometimes requires surgery at the injection site, and attributes this as the reason for the change in the vaccination schedule with the removal of the 18-month booster. It is incorrect to state that the vaccine cannot offer any protection against the new strain, and there is no evidence of severe local reactions to the administration of the acellular vaccine that requires surgical intervention at the injection site. Further, the removal of the 18-month booster dose from the vaccination schedule was based on a study that evidenced protection from pertussis was maintained until 6 years of age, when the primary vaccine course is given at 2, 4 and 6 years of age. In relation to diphtheria, tetanus pertussis, DTP, vaccines, AVN asserts that, quote, all whole-cell DTP vaccines contain mercury in the form of thiomersal, end quote, and that it is one of the most toxic substances known to man and has been linked with autism. In the past, the whole-cell DTP vaccine used in Australia did contain thiomersal. However, even if the maximum possible doses were given, it is unlikely that the World Health Organisation's recommended limit of exposure per kilogram of body weight would have been exceeded. In 2012, the World Health Organisation's Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety reviewed available information on the safety of thiomersal and concluded that the levels of thiomersal attained in the body from cumulative doses of vaccines do not reach toxic levels, making a causal association between thiomersal in vaccines and autism implausible. Further, thiomersal is not present in any of the vaccines on the current national immunisation program for young children. AVN states that many of the anti-D injections recommended for pregnant women with a negative blood group who have babies with a positive blood group and that prevent the mother's immune system from making antibodies to the baby's positive cells, thus preventing harm to the baby, contain thimerosal. They also state that late cord clamping and lotus birth minimises or completely eliminates the exchange of blood after birth. The anti-D injections used in Australia are made from Australian plasma and are free from thimerosal. Further, late cord clamping and lotus birth do not completely eliminate the exchange of blood after birth. There can still be contamination of the maternal system by fetal blood. There is also an increased risk of postpartum hemorrhage and fetal jaundice. AVN provides links on its website to 68 journal studies that AVN states support the alleged vaccine autism causation. However, the studies mostly describe an association between autism or other neurological disorders with vaccines or other environmental exposures, but they make no claim of causality. The subject of any link between vaccines and autism has been examined by a number of expert professional groups, including the Institute of Medicine, none of which have substantiated any link. A study carried out by the Institute of Medicine in 2011 rejects a causal relationship between the measles, mumps and rubella (MMR) vaccine and autism. AVN states that vaccine ingredients and vaccines have never been tested, either individually or in combination. This statement is incorrect, as all vaccines available in Australia must pass stringent safety testing before being approved for use by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, TGA. This testing is required by law and is usually done over many years during the vaccine's development. There is also ongoing review of both vaccine safety and efficacy through post-marketing clinical trials and surveillance of disease and vaccine adverse events. This includes multivalent vaccines and the administration of more than one vaccine at a time. Further, much of the understanding of the safety of vaccine components comes from the use of the components and their lack of association over many years with reported significant adverse events. For components such as mercury and aluminium, conservative safety limits at most ages have been published by a number of reputable agencies, including the Environmental Protection Agency, USA, and the World Health Organization. AVN uses data from the United States Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, on its website, without qualifying that no cause and effect relationship has been established. This is because VAERS collects data on any adverse event following vaccination, and it is specifically stated that any report of an adverse event to VAERS is not a causal link that a vaccine caused that event. On the AVN website, there is the headline, quote, "Nurses don't trust vaccines," end quote, under which an article from the Vaccine Journal about a study conducted into the low rates of vaccinations among nurses who treat infants is referenced. AVN summarised the study conducted as conveying that a large number of nurses are saying no to vaccination because they don't trust the way in which vaccines have been promoted. The study was performed on a small group of 25 nurses in Israel. Due to the small sample size and unique context under which the study was conducted, the results cannot be generalised without caution. The authors of the article suggest that low rates of vaccinations among nurses in Israel who treat infants are, quote, embedded deep in the mistrust nurses have towards health authorities and the nurses' desire for autonomy, end quote. Warning. The Commission has established that AVN does not provide reliable information in relation to certain vaccines and vaccination more generally. The Commission considers that AVN's dissemination of misleading, misrepresented and incorrect information about vaccination engenders fear and alarm and is likely to detrimentally affect the clinical management or care of its readers. Given the issues identified with the information disseminated by AVN, the Commission urges general caution is exercised when using AVN's website or Facebook page to research vaccination and to consult with other reliable sources, including speaking to a medical practitioner to make an informed decision. The Commission has recommended that AVN amend its published information with regard to the above issues, and the Commission will monitor the implementation of these recommendations.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you again to those people who chip into the Skeptic Zone a little bit each week at www.skepticzone.tv via PayPal. Helps me cover the basic costs of putting the show together, and I'm going to be using a little bit of those funds very soon to help me finish off the documentary I've been working on for quite a while now, about 18 months or so. It's taking a long time, I know. The Vaccination Chronicles. I'm getting to the stage where it's going to be in the final edits. I've got some more exteriors to shoot, some voiceover work, bits and pieces. These things take time. But I'm looking forward to getting that documentary out and finished before TAM this year, TAM 2014 in Las Vegas. Can't wait to be there. Can't wait to see Dr. Karl there, and I can't wait to see James Randi one more time. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders, signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.